Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Nana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspa Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Siddhare Srismada Pridhanta Saraswati Goswami Gopal Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnava ki Jai Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Godan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Jamuna Mai ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai Swami Bhaktivinoda ki Jai All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. Our glories to His confounder Acharya, His divine grace, Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadusha Prabhupada. Our glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. So welcome us today to our Srimad Bhagavatam channel, Hare Krishna Africa platform. Today is the 17th day of the month of March, the year 2026. Today we'll be hearing from our dear God sister, Dr. SAKTI DEVI, who is yet to be here. We're expecting her to come in any moment. So while we wait for her to come in, maybe we'll play some bhajan. I believe in the next couple of minutes, she'll be joining us. Thank you for everyone who has joined the channel as of now. Hare Krishna.
Namat jibera karan Adya namat jibera karan Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Prabhu agaye bai magiye bhikha Prabhu agaye bai magiye bhikha Bolo Krishna bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika Aparara Shunna Hai Loho Krishna Na Aparara Shunna Hai Loho Krishna Na Krishna Mato Krishna Pito Krishna Dana Pran Krishna Mato Krishna Pito Krishna Dana Pran Krishna Samsara Koro Chariyana Cha Krishna Samsara Koro Chariyana Cha Divedaya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharmasha Divedaya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharmasha Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Shradhavan jan hai Nadia go
Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Welcome, Shakti.
I think you have 3 devices turned on.
Yeah, I'm having some. One is hanging. I'm trying to manage with the second one. I don't know why this. Okay.
All right, you may mute it, then I can share.
Okay.
Salika Prabhu, can you make Chidi Shakti co-host?
Okay. Yeah, my system just keep leaving right now. I'm on that. Oh my God.
Am I co-host?
Just a minute.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Yeah, you are now a co-host. Mother
Yes.
Johanna. So you're welcome, Mother. Thank you very much for honoring the invitation to speak to us today on Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you for having me back. Thank you, Salika Prabhu. Hare Krishna Sahadev. Hare Krishna Sadhvi. Hare Krishna Romney. Hare Krishna to all the other devotees who are here. Hare Chakra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Everyone else. I won't take all your names, but you know who you are. If as many of you as possible can please show me your face, that would be wonderful. It's more engaging for me, as I'm sure it's also more engaging for you. So today we are continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 16. And we are covering verses 30 and 31. So we'll start with Mangalacharan. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we've got two very exciting verses, two very different verses, two verses which can send us down like so many different avenues of Krishna consciousness. Like literally, I was reading these two verses. I was like, hang on a minute, verse 30 is one thing, and then verse 31 and the purport go into something else completely different. Anyway, let's read the verses together and the purport, and then we can get into sharing a few things, and I can take it wherever you prefer in the Q&A. So let me just share my screen. I'm going to just read the Sanskrit of both verses together and then go back and read the translations and the purport. And, okay, just going to Salika Prabhu, if you can just keep an eye out for people who unmute by accident and then just mute them, please. Thank you. Etat puraiva nirdishtam ramaya krudaya yada purapavarita dvari vishanti mayuparate. This departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. Mai samrambha yogena nistirya brahmahelanam pratishyatam nikasham me kalinal piyasha punaha. The Lord assured the two Vaikuntha inhabitants, Jay and Vijay, by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the Brahmanas and within a very short time return to me. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead advised the two doorkeepers, Jay and Vijay, that by dint of bhakti yoga in anger, they would be delivered from the curses of the Brahmanas. Srila Madhava Muni remarks in this connection that by practicing bhakti yoga, one can become free from all sinful reactions. Even a Brahmin shap or curse by a Brahmana, which cannot be overcome by any other means, can be overcome by bhakti yoga. One can practice bhakti yoga in many rasas. There are 12 rasas, 5 primary and 7 secondary. The 5 primary rasas constitute direct bhakti yoga, but although the 7 secondary rasas are indirect, they are also counted within bhakti yoga if they are used in the service of the Lord. In other words, bhakti yoga is all-inclusive. If one somehow or another becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes engaged in bhakti yoga, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29-15. Kamam krodam bhayam. The gopis were attracted to Krishna by bhakti yoga in the relationship of lusty desire, kama. Similarly, Kans was attached by bhakti yoga by dint of fear of his death. Thus, bhakti yoga is so powerful that even becoming an enemy of the Lord and always thinking of him can deliver one very quickly. It is said, Vishnu bhakta smrito deva asuras tad vipanyaya. Devotees of Lord Vishnu are called demigods, whereas non-devotees are called asuras. But bhakti yoga is so powerful that both demigods and asuras can derive its benefits if they always think of the personality of Godhead. The basic principle of bhakti yoga is to think of the Supreme Lord always. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Man mana bhava mad bhakta, always think of me. It doesn't matter which way one thinks, the very thought of the personality of Godhead is the basic principle of bhakti yoga. In the material planets, there are different grades of sinful activities, of which disrespecting a Brahmana or a Vaishnav is the most sinful. Here it is clearly stated that one can overcome even that grave sin simply by thinking of Vishnu, not even favorably, but in anger. Thus, even if those who are not devotees always think of Vishnu, they can become free from all sinful activities. Krishna consciousness is the highest form of thought. Lord Vishnu is thought of in this age by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. From the statements of Bhagavatam, it appears that if one thinks of Krishna, even as an enemy, that particular qualification, thinking of Vishnu or Krishna, cleanses one of all sins. So you can see what I mean by we get two very different verses here in one sense, although they are definitely connected. They're part of the same chapter. And just to help those of you who don't come every single day or maybe are not on this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jay and Vijay have been cursed by the 4 Kumaras. And as a result of that curse, because Vishnu honors his devotees' request or curse, he doesn't get in the way. However, we have these beautiful verses preceding this where Vishnu himself is saying to them, look, these personal servants of mine are literally like me. So if they've offended you, it's as if I've offended you. and I'm willing to even lob off my limb if I offend my devotee. So he's not able to remove the curse for Jay and Vijay to come to the material world, but he adjusts it. He says, you won't forget me. You won't forget me. And so here he's saying, you know, that you will engage in devotional service in anger. And actually the verses that, you know, and chapters that ensue, we understand better than the circumstances under which Kashyapa Muni has Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. But first of all, this verse, this departure, you know, verse 30, this departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi. So it seems like it's like not a new thing. Vishnu was aware of it. The goddess of fortune, she was very angry because when she left and she came back, Jay and Vijay had apparently stopped her as well while he was sleeping. So, and I don't want to say too much about this right now because there's so much in verse 31. But this really shows us the cumulative effect of offenses. Yes, Jay and Vijay, in the course of their service, because it is their service to be gatekeepers, it is their service to protect Vishnu while he's sleeping. It is their service to gatekeep or vet who comes in and when they come in. So Lakshmi Devi had already been upset with them that they didn't let her in. And it's Lakshmi Devi, she's the Lord's consort, and they didn't let her in because they took their service so seriously. And so they took their service so seriously, they didn't let her in. So she got upset and she said, well, you know, I curse you to leave. Now, they do the same thing to the four Kumaras. And so you have this same curse, this similar mistake. They didn't learn from their first mistake. And although having said that, they did their service nicely. It is their service to do that. And they still managed to make offenses. So you see, offenses are so, they're intricate in the sense that there are those offenses that are made intentionally. There are those offenses that are made unknowingly. And then there's the reaction to offenses depends on our quality, the Lord's, the quality of the devotee who's offended, the Lord's intervention, and also purity. Because actually, if we look at Lakshmi Devi, we look at Jay and Vijay, they are Nityasiddhas, they are pure devotees. They have no, you know, once you're a Nityasiddha, you don't come back to this material world. So the only way they could come back, be cursed to come to the material world was as part of the Lord's pastimes, because they're never going to leave his side. So, and we'd studied this, I think we did a few, you know, chapters back, we'd looked at this, that Srila Prabhupada explains that the reactions to offenses is different for Nityasiddhas compared to somebody who's still conditioned. Because for a conditioned jiva, the offense will keep the distance from the Lord, both in the heart and in the external circumstances of the living, out of life. But if you're a Nityasiddha, you will never be separated from the Lord in the heart. So in the sense that when Jay and Vijay came as demons, they never were separated from Vishnu. They couldn't stop thinking of him, even though it was in anger. So this is something that's important to two things that, especially from this verse, that come up. And I don't want to go into offenses again too much because we have covered that in a previous chapter. But that, you know, the way offenses manifest differs between Nityasiddhas and Sadhana Siddhas, and or Sadhana Bhaktas, and that offenses are cumulative. Offenses are cumulative. So we should be careful to not just try and tread water when it comes to how we treat other people, because how we treat other people is a reflection of how we treat our bhakti, and how we treat our bhakti is a reflection of how we treat Guru and Krishna. So if we're just okay with just getting by, there's no such thing really as just getting by, because there's little incremental challenges, they build up, and then you know, it's Krishna consciousness is ultimately, Krishna reciprocates with us on balance, right? The balance between material desires and spiritual desires, the balance between offenses and service, the balances of acts without devotion and those with devotion. He takes all of these things into consideration. So if we think these little small things, it doesn't really matter because I seem to get away with it. But the small things, they add up. Many grains of sand fill a sandbag, but each of those grains of sand may be tiny, but it still makes its contribution. So it's just interesting that, Vishnu is pointing out to Jay and Vijay that actually this was predicted. And so it has come to pass. And the four Kumaras were willing participants to be the instrument for this to pass. However, he does say he assured them, and it's interesting. Assuring someone of something means you're giving them confidence. Okay, so he gives them confidence. Okay, he gives them confidence for saying that by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger. So they're going to follow the Vedic path, but they're going to do it in anger. Okay, and they were angry. I mean, they were really angry. They imbibed the mood of Kashyapa was angry when Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were conceived, because he was, first of all, disturbed from his meditation. Secondly, he knew it was the wrong time. Thirdly, he was also frustrated with himself because he couldn't say no to his wife. So he had lots and lots of different reasons to be angry. And then he could foresee and foretell what kind of personalities these two, Hiranyaksha, his two sons, would be. And even though he knew and had some insight into who they ultimately were, and that would facilitate the Lord's pastimes, but look how much pain and suffering was caused to other living entities by Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So in one sense, although we're hearing that every type of thinking of the Lord, every type of thinking of Krishna loosens our grip on material reality. We also, when we take everything in context, we also see, but what's the harm and what's the benefit of the way I'm doing it? So I want to take the opportunity here to explore something that it doesn't come up so clearly in Prabhupada's purports. Prabhupada really takes time to actually delve into a little bit of things he talks about in the Nectar of Devotion. So he talks about Bhakti Yoga and the different types of rasas. Now, if we look at pure devotional service and the definition of pure devotional service, it is unalloyed. So it's not mixed with material desire for mukti, liberation, desire for mystic siddhis. It is uninterrupted. So it's always, okay, there's no interruption, there's nothing else going on. And it is favorable. It is favorable. So you may look at that and think, okay, well, hang on, how does Jay and Vijay's devotional service as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, whichever other demons they embody, how does that fit? How does that fit? So in this regard, in this purport, there's a few things, first of all, that I want to focus on before we get into why anger can also lead to or comes under pure devotional service, when on the surface it seems like, or at first glance, it seems like, how is anger favorable to Krishna? So there's three things that Prabhupada really focuses on in this purport, in the aspect of what do we mean by, devotional service and thinking of the Lord. So the first thing he points out is that Bhakti Yoga is about attachment. Okay, attachment to Krishna. When we are attached to someone or something, it's not just that we like them, but we notice their absence. Okay, so we miss them as well. So he talks about attachment. The whole purpose of Bhakti Yoga is to develop attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because when we become attached to our source, just like whatever we're attached to in this world draws out a different aspect of our identity. So in a similar way, when we become attached to our spiritual source, it draws out our spiritual identity. So attachment to Krishna is the basis of Bhakti Yoga. It's the basis of self-realization, because when we redevelop our attachment, remember our attachment to him, the part of us or the sense of us that is actually attached to him, we remember who we are. We remember why we are. We remember what our service is, our form, our name, our qualities, and our pastimes with him. So this is one aspect. The second aspect he talks about is that it constitutes thinking of him, which we'll go into a little bit more, and then thinking of him in this age is done by chanting the holy name. That chanting is the same as smaranam. Kirtanam constitutes shravanam and also smaranam. So when we're thinking about these different rasas and these different ways of thinking about Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he explains that one can practice Bhakti Yoga in many rasas. And when he's saying practice Bhakti Yoga in many rasas, he's not talking about when we are engaged in Vaidhi Bhakti, the way we chant our rounds, the way we do our deity worship. He's not talking about the externals of what we do in this world, right? Our principles of sadhana bhakti. When he's saying one can practice Bhakti Yoga in many rasas, he's talking about when one starts to practice Bhakti Yoga in their, whether it's at Raganuga Bhakti in practice or Raganuga Bhakti, which is spontaneous by nature with attachment and taste. So Ruchi and Ashakti. In either one of those, one has some awareness of a particular mellow that they are. That's what rasa means, a mellow, a flavor of attachment to Krishna. So we know about the five primary, that our eternal identity can either have a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in neutrality. Second one is servitude, it's like a servant. Third is friendship, like the cowhead boys. And also some cowhead girls have friendship, the very young ones. They also have a friendly mood. And then there's parental. So parental isn't just Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Parental is also many of the uncles and aunties and elder gopas and gopis and grandparents, etc. And then we have conjugal love, both unmarried and married. In Vrindavan, we have the unmarried conjugal love, and in Dwarka, and Mathura, there is the married conjugal love. So, but the 7 secondary, and those of you who have studied Nectar of Devotion or want to study Nectar of Devotion, this is actually all in chapter 34 of Nectar of Devotion. The 7 kind of secondary rasas, Prabhupada explains they're indirect, so they're not quite a flavor of a type of relationship, but they're sub-flavors that bring different dimensions to the 5 primary relationships. So he describes these as laughter, compassion, anger, chivalry, dread, astonishment, and ghastliness. Now, if you read Nectar of Devotion, chapter 34 onwards, all these 12 rasas, all these 12 mellows and flavors are gone into in more depth. And I think just as an exercise of curiosity and wanting to share what I learned through my curiosity, it's interesting in chapter 34, Srila Prabhupada, when he introduces these 12 mellows, he also says that there is a color that represents every mellow, and there is also a presiding deity or a presiding avatar for each mellow. So I'm going to just go through them. I think this may interest some people. I certainly found it interesting. So neutrality, the color for neutrality is white. And the presiding deity for neutrality is Lord Kapiladev. Servitude is multicolored or like a rainbow. And Madhava is the presiding deity. Fraternity or friendship is represented by the color orange. And the presiding deity is Upendra. Parental affection, Vatsalya Ras, is represented by the color red. And Lord Nishingadev is the presiding deity. Conjugal love is represented by the color light green. And the presiding deity is Nandanandana. Laughter. So now we're getting into the 7 secondary or indirect rasas. Laughter is represented by the color gray. We'll never look at the color gray in the same way again. And the presiding personality is Lord Balaram. Compassion is represented by yellow. It's Kurmadev. Anger is represented by the color off-whitish or cream. And that is Kalki. Kalki is the presiding deity. Chivalry, the rasa of chivalry, is represented by the color smoky. And the presiding deity is Raghav. Dread is represented by pink. I mean, what I found astonishing was that the colors don't match the way we match, emotions in this world. I was not expecting anger to be cream. I wasn't expecting dread to be pink. So dread is pink, and Bhargava is the presiding deity. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting. Astonishment is represented by the color black, and the presiding deity is Varahadev. And finally, ghastliness is the color cloudy, and that's represented by Matsya. So coming back to this point, thinking, what do we mean by thinking of the Lord? Because, yes, we're hearing from Srila Prabhupada that actually, when we look at the eternal identity, there's so much variety in the way we relate to Krishna. It's not just about the flavor of the type of relationship you have, but that type of relationship has variety brought into it because of so many other different mellows, so many other different emotions, so many other different flavors. And then we hear in this verse that actually even somebody who's intensely thinking of Krishna in anger is engaged in bhakti yoga. What does this mean for us? How do we understand this? How do we understand this for us at our stage? And this is where we get insight in terms of what does it mean to think of Krishna, right? Yes, we've heard that there needs to be some attachment, affection, needs to be constant, needs to be unalloyed with material desires. And we've also heard that actually chanting the holy name is non-different to thinking of him. But we also have a lot from Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on what thinking of, what smaranam actually is. Right? Smaranam is beyond just a psychological construct. Right? It's beyond just conjuring up an image. And so we get more insight into this in Nectar of Instruction. So Nectar of Instruction, verse 8, is it's got a very long purport, and really verse 8 does focus on how we stay absorbed in chanting and remembering 24 hours a day. That's what the verse is advising us to do. So Srila Prabhupada spends a lot of time going through this in stages in the purport. It's a long purport. It's a very thorough purport. It's a very, very wonderful purport. But I'm going to go through what Srila Prabhupada shares with us from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, first of all, and I'm paraphrasing here, that, and this is actually what Krishna suggests, and this is what Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, that when he says, always think of me and never forget me, he says, but if you can't do that, follow the principles of sadhana bhakti. Okay, so what does sadhana bhakti do? Even at a practice stage, it trains the mind. It trains the mind to look inwards and not just always be looking outwards. And that training primarily comes from chanting the holy name. right? Because from his name sprout, from anyone's name, you keep calling someone, you'll spend time with them by calling them. And beyond their name, you start to become familiar with their form. You start to become familiar with their story, their pastimes, their qualities. Yes, what they're like as a person. And then you form your own pastimes with them, isn't it? So this is what happens with Krishna. As we call his name, he comes, we welcome him, we receive him. Depending on the quality of our chanting, we're attentive or present with him or not. But as we progress with that, as we're more present with him, so then all of these different aspects of him become manifest. And so we start to develop a taste, right? Wherever we put our attention, we develop some affection. And after we develop affection, we naturally develop attachment. This is Krishna consciousness is a very natural and organic process. When we really look at it, we're not really being asked to do anything that's odd or unfamiliar to us. It's all we're being asked to do is just change the focus. Just change the focus. So when we develop such a taste, then we naturally want to live much more internally and externally in Dham consciousness or Vrindavan consciousness. We want to be, just like when we have affection for a person, we want to be where they are. Yes? Remember the places where they are. And we do this under the direction and protection of a expert devotee. This is always the case. Having guru or an expert devotee train us and guide us is always the case. From beginning to end, externally and internally, whether we are in Vaidhi Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti. Okay, so in Vaidhi Bhakti, we have the external manifestation of the super soul in the form of our Diksha and Shiksha gurus. And then as one develops their natural attraction for Krishna, as that starts to awaken, then one follows in the footsteps of the presiding personality of that particular mellow. If you're a cowherd boy, you follow the particular cowherd boy. Vatsalya, you follow either Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj. And in conjugal love, you follow one of the gopis. So, and if you're a servant, you follow one of Krishna's servants. But what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur does, what Srila Prabhupada quotes from him in this particular purport, is the different types and stages of thinking, right? To help us to understand that thinking isn't just a psychological or human construct. It's more than that. It may start in the mind, but it goes beyond the mind. Yes, because we have this mind, but we also have a supramind. That supramind is from our spirit self, spiritual self, and we have a supraconsciousness. So he says, in the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. So we're hearing now, hearing Krishna Katha as well as chanting are both types of remembering. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities and pastimes, one can then attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. Okay? This is the difference between inattention and attention. The person who's inattentive in hearing and chanting, when we are inattentive with hearing and chanting, we are not receiving Krishna when he comes. There's no acceptance there. Does that make sense? When we're attentive, we accept him when he comes. Attentiveness in our devotional service is, again, it's not just a psychological, cognitive construct. There is an emotion to it. There's an attitude to it. Okay, when Krishna comes as his name, when we call him, he comes. He's arriving. Are you receiving him? Am I receiving him? When I'm inattentive, I'm not receiving him. I've called him to the front door and I'm not opening it. Or I've called him to the front door, I've opened it and then just left him there. Or I've called him to the front door, he's walked in and I've walked away. Or I've called him to the front door, he's walked in, he's sat down, he started talking to me and I stopped listening. It's just a matter of whether you do it at the first mantra, you lose track at the first mantra, the fifth mantra, the first round or the fifth round. Right? So this explanation that when we keep doing that, we attain the stage of acceptance. When we accept Krishna, we accept him, attentiveness becomes easy, because accepting him means recognizing that he is a real person. He is a person in his own right. He's not just a functional character in our life who delivers whatever we desire, who delivers the consequences of our actions, who everything rests upon, who's an ideology, who's a higher power. You know, he's all of these things, but he does all of these things, but he is a person in his own right. Do we accept him? Do we accept him as somebody who has feelings? Do we accept him as somebody who has a response to the way we treat him? Do we accept him as, you know, a personality? We can say supreme personality of Godhead, but do you think about the fact he has a personality? Somebody has a personality, they are a person. They are affected by how we respond to them when we call them. So when we accept him, this is called Varnadasha. When one attains this stage, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha, because unless you accept someone as a person, you're not going to be that interested in them. If I showed you my teapot from my kitchen, you're not going to be that interested. But if I talk to you about the teapot from Beauty and the Beast, because that teapot's been given a personality, you want to know. You know how many people buy toys of that teapot from Beauty and the Beast? They talk to that teapot. They listen to the voice of the teapot. They have bedtime stories read by that teapot. You see what I mean? Why? Because they've accepted the personality. They've accepted the person of the teapot. So even an inanimate object has become something that people get attached to. Now imagine if after accepting the supreme personality, right, we actually accept him. It's natural then. One becomes attached to wanting to hear, oh, I want to know about that person. That's a real person. I want to know about him. Okay, and when we hear and we become attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha, you know, when one attains the stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. And as we become attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha, chanting becomes ecstatic, because there's joy. There is joy in being with the personality of love. There's joy in being with a person and hearing about a person who is always loving. So he says, when one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of smarana vashta, the stage of remembering. This is not just, hey, what's your IQ and what can you recollect me remembering? This is the remembering that comes from deep within us, that supra mind, that super love that we have for Krishna. Okay, so then recollection, absorption. So recollecting what? Recollecting who I am to him. Who am I really to him? Absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. Puts a different angle on meditation, doesn't it? Meditation is actually not about making your mind quiet. Meditation's something that you create, okay? We don't meditate. Actually, ultimately, we let meditation happen. So by uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi, or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha, or samadhi, has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampati dasha, the perfection of life. When we are talking about Krishna assuring, or Vishnu assuring Jay and Vijay that they will practice the mystic yoga system in anger. Okay, they'll practice it in anger and return to him, ultimately. Think about the intensity with which Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu thought of Vishnu. It wasn't just, oh, he got angry at, Krishna or Vishnu a couple of times a day. Hiranyakashipu's meditation on anger at Vishnu was constant. Okay, we cannot compare ourselves. Oh, okay, well, I'm quite an angry devotee. Let me just be angry at God. It's not the same thing, right? First of all, an eternal associate of the Lord. Secondly, his remembrance of Krishna or Vishnu was constant. He was angry constantly. And so in one sense, so in this verse it says, the Lord assured the two Vaikuntha inhabitants, Jay and Vijay, by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the brahmanas and within a very short time return to me. The sin of disobeying the brahmanas. What is sin? Something that keeps you away from God. It's because he disobeyed the four Kumaras, they put a distance, tried to put a distance between Jay and Vijay and Vishnu. They couldn't because they're Nityasiddhas, but they also could in the context of always staying in the Lord's association. Okay? Because Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha's constant meditation. Remember, yoga is defined, and the result of your yoga is defined by who your focus is on. So their focus was Krishna, Vishnu, the whole time. It didn't matter if they were doing, which asana they were doing. Okay? Whether it was warrior or tree or downward dog. Well, I don't know. I don't even know the Sanskrit terms for most of the asanas. It didn't matter what they were doing or whether they were chanting mantras. Their constant meditation was anger at Vishnu. It was constant. They were literally in trance. So this burned off any distance that was created by geography, by being in the material world versus the spiritual world. It burned off that distance. It was like there's a long rope and the fire of their remembrance of the Lord just burned that rope to shreds, and to a point where literally there was a point at which there was no rope left. And so he descends as Varahadev, as Nrsingadev. He can't help it because it's what's brought them together, right? So not only was that separation burned off, but actually ultimately they returned, they reunited. And we hear about the externals of it as a big fight, between Varahadev and Hiranyaksha, or a big fight between Nrsingadev and Hiranyakashipu. But actually look how many wonderful things came of their intense practice of the mystic yoga system in anger. So this is the difference. This is what brings it back to, even though devotional service is described as having to do, part of it is that it must be favorable to the Lord. This was favorable to the Lord because it facilitated his pastimes. His pastime to come as Varahadev, his pastime to come as Nrsingadev, his pastime to connect with Prahlad Maharaj. Jay and Vijay were great facilitators of this, as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So when we are, looking at these different emotions, okay, there's those like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha who in anger, constant anger, achieve constant remembrance of the Lord, and ultimately they return to their eternal identity. But actually anger's there even in the other mellows. Mother Yashoda, she gets angry. She gets angry at Krishna when he puts mud in his mouth. She gets angry when he breaks the butter pots on Diwali, and the whole Damodar Leela ensues. She gets angry when the boys come back from Talavan. She gets angry that they've gone to a forest, some remote forest, with no adults with them. She looks at them in anger. It's described like this in the Bhagavatam. So she also gets angry. But the point is, it's all for Krishna, all of it. The gopis, they get angry. They get angry in support of Radharani. Sometimes they get angry at Krishna directly because of the way he's behaving. So in this way, we see different emotions arise even in, the secondary emotions, or indirect rasas arise in the primary 5 rasas. Krishna consciousness is It's a process of feeling. It's a process of feeling. But what Krishna consciousness does is it takes us from temporary human feelings, which, whether they lead to anything favorable, is hit or miss. Whether they're telling us the truth is hit or miss. Because we'll only ever get a relative truth. We'll only ever get a relative joy from them. But this process of Krishna consciousness, this process of chanting the Mahamantra, this sound vibration that we utter every single day, it changes us. It loosens the grip. It loosens the way we cling to our humanity, our human reality, which actually is a very temporary and for that reason, a false reality, like a dream. A dream is real, but it's not as well because it's very temporary, right? So it changes us. The Mahamantra changes us. The only way, you know, we have this thing in my field of work where when somebody has an irrational fear, the only way to, or the most powerful way to rid them of an irrational fear is to force them to see what the actual reality is. And the more we immerse ourselves in our spiritual reality, which must start with the Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, that is all in the holy name. The more we do that, the more we loosen the grip on the irrational, the more we loosen the grip on the temporary, because we realize we're holding on to nothing but something that's going to just fizzle away very quickly. Just like when we start waking up in the morning, no matter how intense the dream we've had is, the minute we realize it was just a dream and I'm stepping into reality, we loosen the grip, we let it go. We let it go. So these two verses are very deep. One goes deeply, you know, gets us to really look at, offenses, how they manifest differently, how they're cumulative. But this second verse really helps us to understand that the point is, don't worry too much about what the feeling is. Don't worry too much about what the emotion is, because Krishna consciousness is full of a variety of emotions. Variety, and that's what makes it exciting, because every emotion is connected with joy. Anger in Krishna consciousness, real Krishna consciousness, is joyful. Mother Yashoda experiences a bliss in the anger she feels at Krishna. Right? when she's trying to tie Krishna with the ropes, there's some frustration because it doesn't matter how long a rope she gets, it's always 2 fingers too short. And she feels frustration as well and anger when the ladies from the neighboring houses, they're looking over their fence and they start laughing at her, that, you know, and they're laughing shyly, but they're laughing because they're thinking, you can't tie up a little kid, you know? So they think it's hilarious. And it's described how, you know, Mother Yashoda's sweating, she's frustrated. And she sees these gopis laughing at her. And then she also starts laughing herself. You know, have you ever been that angry that you start to laugh? Because you realize the futility, the whole futility of the situation. So there's a joy. You know, we look at chivalry, for example. You look at Bhishma Dev. There's a beautiful painting. Bhishma Dev's come off his chariot and Krishna is running at him with the wheel. You know, you see Krishna's broad chest and his yellow dhoti, and it's all flowing in the wind, and his hair's flowing in the wind, and he's got beads of sweat. It describes this, and the dust from the battlefield is coming onto his body, and he's running so fast. I mean, Krishna runs like the wind, and to protect Arjuna, and he, you know, to protect Arjuna, he's breaking his promise, and also to please Bhishma Dev, and so he's picked up this wheel, and practically becomes like a Sudarshan chakra. But Bhishma Dev, in this mood of this affection for Krishna and chivalry, He's not looking to defend himself. He just puts his arms open. You know, his arms are, and he's feeling ecstatic. I don't know about you, but if somebody was running at me, even with a little toy wheel, forget a real wheel from a child, they were running at me with aggression, unless I really had love for them, real love, I would be running. I wouldn't take a second look to see what they look like, what beads of sweat were running off their face, or whether they looked handsome or beautiful, running like the wind. I'd be going the other way. But Bhishma there stopped, and he couldn't think of anything better than to depart at the hands of his beloved. So Krishna consciousness sounds so complicated and so variegated, but it's so beautiful and it's so simple. And the way Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just explains this, that, you know, when we keep chanting, hearing, remembering through, as what Prabhupada says, in this age, remembering Smarana means chanting the holy name. As we progress from that, we eventually start to accept Krishna as a person. When we accept Krishna as a person, our chanting changes, because we inevitably develop attachment. And it is really that attachment from which everything else follows. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what we've done, even if we've been cursed by a Vaishnava. Bhakti Yoga is the only thing that can undo it. Bhakti Yoga is the only thing that can undo it. In fact, Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that once we are in Krishna's association, then we aren't ever coming back, not in forgetfulness. Worst case scenario, we come back and we have to have what might on the surface seem like adversarial emotions towards him. But that's really the only difference. His Nitya Siddhas are always in his pastimes, even if they make offenses. The worst that happens is you stay in his pastimes just in an adversarial mood, not in a favorable mood. But until we reach that stage, until we regain our original consciousness, then we must be careful to not mix up human feelings of anger and frustration, etc., as being the same thing as pure feelings of anger towards Krishna. So we still follow Rupa Goswami's definition of unalloyed, uninterrupted, and favorable. And we don't do our puja thinking, well, it's better I just do this really angry at Krishna, you know, because, you know, it's intense, and that's the kind of person I am in this world, you know. I'm an intense, angry person, you know. The bell will be so loud, you know, it may be out of sync. Who knows? You'll catch on fire from your anger. You don't know what's going to happen. No, we want to develop the affection that we actually naturally have, you know. So anyway, I will. I've been speaking for a while. I didn't realize I'd gone past 4 o'clock. There's a nice, I'll leave you with something that really describes this nicely. Srila Prabhupada talks about how everything we have is a consequence or grown from the seeds of our desires. And he says, but when you plant a seed and you water it, inevitably something's going to grow from it and you will reap the fruit. But if you put fried seeds in the soil, it doesn't matter how much you water them, they don't fructify. So he says, fry the seeds of your desire in the burning flames of devotional service. So we fry these seeds of desire in the burning flames of devotional service, then the only things that will sprout will be the Bhakti Lata Bij, that one seed of devotional service. Always think of him, never forget him. We have the perfect formula, chanting the Maha Mantra. Accept Krishna for who he is, and the magic will unfold. Move away from inattention just being a psychological and cognitive construct. Attention is about relationship. And relationship is had with a person, not with a type of meditation. Okay, over to you, your questions, comments, realizations, corrections. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, course, as always, so beautiful. Salika Prabhu. Devotees, if anyone, like our revered speaker mentioned, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand. You'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hare Krishna. Madachiri Shakti, thank you so much for this wonderful Krishna Katha. I have a question and I have an answer to my question, but I want a verification. I want a verification of the answer, if it's correct.
Sure.
There was once a time on this very platform when His Grace Govinda Prabhu, is always here in this truck, asked a question because we were just still talking about Jai Vijay. That what is the need in the first place that Vaikuntha should have gates and it should have securities? Because this is a spiritual world, only pure devotees can enter there. So what is the need of having gates, and not just one gate, two gate, but several gates? And at each gate, there are gatekeepers. And then I did some reading because this question was asked. I did some reading, and my deduction from the readings was that sometimes yogis who are not bhakti yogis may be allowed to go to Vaikuntha, but they only go there for more or less like a holiday, a visit. And after their visit, they are asked to come back. Now, my question to that is, if that happens to be the case, that sometimes those who are non-devotees are given entrance to Vaikuntha for a short while and then come back, then why do we say that only Bhakti Yoga can take one back home, back to Godhead, back to Vaikuntha? If you may help.
Yeah. So actually the answer to your question's been in these verses. If you read these chapters, it describes how actually even the four Kumaras, they didn't go to Vaikuntha. They managed to get as far as the gates. They weren't allowed in. So even the ones who visit, they're only allowed as far as the gate. Vishnu came out to see them. Describes it very clearly in the verses that he comes out to greet them. Same with Durvasha Muni. When he can go to Vaikuntha. So when we hear about these yogis and mystics who can go to Vaikuntha, they can get to the gates. Get to the gates means you are nothing more than a visitor. There is a difference between somebody who can go and visit the university and someone who's enrolled in the university, right? There is a difference between a resident and a visitor. So Bhakti Yoga is the only thing that can give us residency back into particularly Goloka Vrindavan, right? Because even other yoga processes can get you into Vaikuntha because they can give you the 5 types of liberation where you have the same form as the Lord, same appearance as the Lord. You know, there's so many different, have the same residence as the Lord. There's those 5 main different types of liberation that one can have. One can even be merged with the Brahmajyoti. So, but Bhakti Yoga particularly, specifically, takes us to the topmost part of Vaikuntha, the core of Vaikuntha, the Lord's personal abode, the Supreme Personality's personal abode, the original personality of Godhead's personal abode. Okay, so Goloka is Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, and then you also have Gaura Lila there as well. And that place, you can't. There's no visitors there. There's only residents. Vaikuntha, visitors get as far as the gate. So when we read the descriptions of what the four Kumaras saw in Vaikuntha, You know, they saw these personalities who look like the Lord. It describes how there's many goddesses of fortune, and you know, as they're flying around on their flower planes, their big bangles are bashing against the pillars, and you know, they're waiting for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to kiss their lotus faces. It's just really beautiful description. It's what they're viewing as an outsider. They don't know what it's actually like, but they feel ecstatic just even viewing it. Right? So yeah, no, you can't. It's Bhakti Yoga is the only thing that gets you in the personal association of the Lord in these 5 direct rasas and then the 7 indirect rasas. There's no visitors there, not from outside. Like even Narad Muni, he can go, but where does he go? He visits also the Bhumi Vrindavan. You see? So yeah, mystic yogis, they go to see because there's 2 Vaikunthas. There's Vaikuntha, which is you know, the eternal Vaikuntha, part of the spiritual sky. There's also like a mini Vaikuntha at the bottom of every universe, where Lord Vishnu is lying on, or Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is lying on Anantashesh. So like for example, Durvasha Muni, I believe, goes to see him there. But we think of geography as linear, right, or circular. But actually, geography is multi-dimensional. Spiritual and material reality is about dimensions. It's not really about structured space. So wherever we are all sitting now, the spiritual world and the material world are coexisting. It is simply a matter of what we're tuning into.
That's beautiful. So if I understood your answer to my question much clearly, it's like me traveling from the States to Ghana and then having a transit at Heathrow Airport. So I get to Heathrow and I think, hey, I'm here in the UK, but I'm just at the airport.
Yes.
Could that be the...
Yes,
okay.
similar. Yeah, and you can see from the window what some of
Yeah.
the UK looks like,
Yeah.
but you're not allowed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's like being at the border, right?
Okay. All right. Beautiful.
Thank you. I think Jayanti has a question. Yeah, that's Jayanti. I know her.
Okay.
Bhagadatta's your husband, right?
That's
Okay.
right. I don't know. It was Jayanti and changed to Bhagadatta. I don't know what is happening, you know.
That's all right, don't worry.
My
2
husband
halves
is
of the same
as
body.
well. Yeah. Thank you so much. This class was beautiful. I really, really liked it. And I have 2 questions. I don't know if I'll have time to ask them both.
Sure.
Yeah, but the first one is related to when you were reading that the Jai and Vijay, they had to nullify or clear their sins through the anger. Isn't that?
Through devotional service and anger.
Yeah,
yes.
I was thinking of recently, I was reading an article from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's article on Vaishnava Ninda. And there he explains that there are 4 categories of jivas: ordinary jivas, religious jivas, then brahmanas, and friend of the brahmanas, friend of the Vaishnavas, something like that, and then Vaishnavas. So if you commit any wrong to the first 3 categories, ordinary jivas, religious jivas, brahmanas, or the friend of the Vaishnavas, then this is considered sin. But if you commit some wrongdoing to a Vaishnava, then this is aparat. And in there he said that any punya, pious activities, can nullify sins.
Yes.
But they cannot. But this cannot be done with the aparat. So there it's written sin also in the purport.
Yes.
That actually they committed sin. So my question is, did they commit sins because the Kumaras brahmanas, or it was apparat actually, and they needed to have that devotional service in anger?
So actually they do mystic yoga in anger. They don't even do devotional service in anger. They do
Oh,
mystic
okay.
mystic yoga in anger. So mystic, because the Vedic processes easily nullify sins, right? But their whole purpose was to go back to Vishnu. Yeah, this is it. So the thing is, the four Kumaras are not pure Vaishnavas. It's described that the four Kumaras aren't, which is why they can only get as far as the gate. But they were pure, they were childlike, they were expert in their mystic siddhis, and they do become pure devotees, but they weren't at that point. So by upsetting them, the Jay and Vijay were cursed. They were cursed, but it was a brahmana's curse, which is, it's a sin, right? And that can be nullified. But remember, Jay and Vijay are Nitya Siddhas. So their position is higher than the four Kumaras.
Okay.
And they've got an intimate position with Vishnu. To be someone's gatekeeper is very intimate. You have to really trust them. Who's your bodyguard? Someone you really trust. You know, personal servants know more about the master than often even the relatives. You know, we look at even and I think I've spoken about this before, and we even look at the relationship between the Manjaris and Radharani versus her friends and Radharani. The Manjaris have direct access to, because they're just little girls. So when Radharani forgets things or makes a mistake or something, she's happy to tell the little Manjaris. She doesn't feel embarrassed with them. She tells them, but she won't tell her friends. When Radharani's having her pastimes with Krishna, the other Sakhis are not there in the groves. It's a private thing, but the Manjaris can come and go. They're just little girls because they don't notice those things. They have no cognizance. So there's these personal servants. They're very intimate. They know things. Even we see in this world, right? You look at just real life, even movies. Batman, his butler is like more like his father than his own father, right? His butler loves him so much. He knows him so intimately. He even knows his secret identity. Right? But his parents didn't have any understanding of that. I mean, they died, I think. I don't want to get into the story too much, but you get my point, right?
Yeah.
You get my point.
Yeah.
There's this, Jay and Vijay had a very exalted relationship with Vishnu compared to the four Kumaras. However, Vishnu is also recognizing who the four Kumaras are and the austerities they've done to come thus far. They're in the process of coming closer. And so this is why we hear so much sweetness, and there's so much talk of, throughout Bhagavatam, we hear about the difference between sin and offense. It's really about the difference between committing a crime versus hurting the beloved of the person who sets the laws, right? You commit a crime, the prime minister might be like, yeah, okay, there's rules that deal with that. But you hurt one of the relatives of the prime minister, there's going to be different repercussions. So, yeah, does that answer your question? Is that okay?
Yeah. But again, yeah, I still have this doubt with the offense which Jai and Vijay committed, because apparently, as you said, they were doing their service. Kumaras are not allowed anyway inside. They were not rude to them. They were not offensive in any way. And still they got kind of like, okay, this is a pastime, you say, but I'm thinking about myself.
What do we learn from this? Yes.
Yes, exactly, because we interact with devotees. And I have a personal case where a devotee, which I want to stay like kind of little bit aside. I don't know what you mean.
Okay,
And
Jayanti,
that devotee wants to be close to me, but I don't want. And I'm not rude, I'm not offensive, but simultaneously I don't want to become so close to me, that devotee. And I'm thinking, okay, what did they do? What did they do so wrong? And what about us who, we have so many.
Yeah. Jayanti, I understand what you're saying, because here again, look, if you look at a lot of these cases, so in this case, well, Jay and Vijay were just doing their service. Of course, people are going to get upset. right?
And they're not allowed anyway in. They're not allowed
They're
in.
not allowed
as you
in. No,
said.
but I mean, I think Vishnu is supposed to come out to greet them. The other thing is, you look at Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasha Muni. Ambarish Maharaj did nothing. Durvasha Muni got upset, like as if Ambarish Maharaj had, committed the greatest crime. Okay, Brigu Muni kicks Vishnu in the chest. Vishnu's doing nothing. He's got his head in Lakshmi's lap. He's doing nothing. Brigu Muni just comes and kicks him in the chest. So what we're hearing is whether, okay, Brigu Muni does it as a test. Durvasha Muni loses control over his temper. Same for Kumaras. This is why I was saying you have to look at the quality of the person who's upset and the quality of the person who's caused the upset. You have to look at the intention. And because all of these things have a factor, right? They play a role. When Durvasha Muni was upset with Ambarish Maharaj, Vishnu didn't respond the same way he did with Jay and Vijay. Remember, with Jay and Vijay had already been told, you're going to have to leave Vishnu's side by Lakshmi, because they'd also not let Lakshmi in, and Lakshmi is allowed in.
Yeah.
When the Lord was
Yeah.
asleep. Do you see what I, so it wasn't just because the four Kumaras had gotten upset with them. There was accumulation. Okay. Whereas with Durvasha Muni, when he came to Vishnu for help, Vishnu didn't say, oh, Ambarish Maharaj is my dear devotee. It's as if I've committed the offense. I'm so sorry. I will make sure your fire demon kills Ambarish Maharaj. He didn't do any of that. He sent Sudarshan Chakra to cut up that fire demon and then chase the Sudarshan, chase Durvasha Muni with his Sudarshan Chakra. When Durvasha Muni comes to him, he says, you did all of this because of your own self-envy. Why? We're looking at degree of devotion. We're looking at cumulative offenses. We're looking at the intention. We're looking at the person. So all of these things are a factor. We are living in a very mixed up human world. Kali Yuga is ingrained in every cell of us. Okay? This is the age of quarrel and bluffing or hypocrisy. Even our own body bluffs us. Our mind bluffs us. Our own body attacks us. People have autoimmune diseases. Your own body is attacking you. This Kali Yuga in every cell. People have disorders where there's nothing wrong with their body, but because their mind tells them there's something wrong with their body, they get all the symptoms. Right? Do you see what I mean? So if our body is in conflict with itself, if our body's in conflict with our own mind, is it any wonder that people are going to be upset even when we're trying our best? But we continue. We continue because everything we experience, we have to ask, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to respond to this? How can I respond to this with love without being so invested in it that I forget about Krishna in the first place? You see? So it's all of these things Krishna sends us in different ways. We have to have boundaries. We can't be friends with every single person. But even those who aren't our intimate friends, can we be respectful and loving with them? They're usually seeking love from us, and can we do it in a way that respects our boundary and respects them? It's not that pure devotees don't have boundaries. Even Krishna has boundaries. That's why he has gates and gatekeepers. You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
don't overthink it. The best thing we can do is we don't perpetuate it. So if somebody gets upset by what we've done, then we apologize, whether it was by accident or on purpose. Isn't that what we teach children? But I did it by accident. It's okay. You still say sorry. Do you see what I mean? There is nothing to lose by apologizing. An apology never harmed anyone. Right? And it costs nothing, but it can diffuse misunderstandings. Can diffuse so many misunderstandings. Anyway, there's so many different ways of looking at this. You look at even actually as a devotee advances, they feel this separation from Krishna so much. It's like when you have very fine mechanics, if there's a tiny little grain, it can jar very fine mechanics. Whereas you have big mechanics, you can have rocks and stones in them and you hardly notice it, right? Fine. So when we're at a very crude stage of our Krishna consciousness, we're at a distance anyway, right? We don't really notice so much how many offenses we're always making and how many repercussions we're dealing with, how many sins we're committing, how many but as one starts to get closer and closer to Krishna, it becomes even more important to not upset anybody. There's no even consideration of whether they're senior, junior, whatever, because one feels that tiny granular separation. You look at Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami, I think they're meditating on, this pastime of Radharani wants a mango and Krishna pushes down the tree branch and Radharani goes to reach for that mango. And then Krishna lets go of the tree branch and, and he thinks, and Sanatana Goswami thinks it's hilarious. And as he's laughing, a leper's walking past and he thinks he's laughing at him. And so he gets upset. That upset disrupts the meditation. What does he do? He doesn't sit there going, oh, well, I'm more qualified than you. You seem to have some physical disease. You must have bad karma. He doesn't think like that. Let me think. He just thinks, my God, I was close to Krishna. I was right there with the divine couple, and now I'm not. It must be because this person's upset. He cooks a feast, pays obeisances, apologizes, gives this person so much love, the person can't even be upset at him anymore. The person stops believing that this person was laughing at me because there's no way this person could have been laughing at me because they've showered at me with so much love. So do you see this? Rather than getting so intensely calculating about trying to correct our behavior, let's get more calculating about how we can be of more service in our attitude. It's not about doing more. It's really about doing things with more care and affection. And even if we don't have care and affection for the person in front of us, we can think of the people we do have care and affection for. Guru, Krishna, other Vaishnavas we have care and affection for, and think, well, how would this person want me to respond? If this person was in front of me, how would I treat them? With what kind of love? It may not be the externals of the behavior are the same, but what's the internal attitude? If there's one, so for example, who it's really easy to be forgiving with? People we really love. When we really love someone, we forgive them for things before they've really even had a chance to land with us and upset us, right? You see this a lot often with parents and children. We can think about that level of love to enable and help our own forgiveness. Now, I don't want to go down the topic of forgiveness because this whole thing is also, with forgiveness, it doesn't mean you forget. Just reframe what happened. Doesn't mean what the person did was okay. But this is what I'm saying. This is the power of love and affection. So, yeah, you don't need to, I think, Jayanti, you don't need to worry too much about calculating what degree or why. Just see when this person comes or whenever it is, if someone's upset by something I've done, I can always apologize, right? I can always apologize.
That's right. Yeah.
We can't make everyone happy. It's just not possible. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we stop trying.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, it's okay. Maybe some other time when I see you, I can ask you.
Maybe you can come here on a Saturday for our Spiritual Warrior Sangha.
No, I was planning anyway. I'm planning to come. So yeah, I will
Good.
come.
I'll see you on Saturday.
So there is another devotee who wants to ask a question.
You said you had two. You said you had two.
I can ask after that devotee, so I don't block the.
Okay, whatever you prefer.
After that.
Krishna.
I think since you're still here, you may go ahead and ask your second question.
I already asked Hamsaduta to ask his. It's okay. I'll take it and I'll come back to Jayanti.
Okay. Hamsaduta, then you may unmute.
Yes, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mother.
Krishna.
Please kindly accept my respectful obeisances. All glory to Sri Prabhupada and all glory to wonderful Asavi devotees. Thank you once again for the wonderful class.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for your laughter to enlighten this platform. I really love it and inspire me so much. It takes a lot of stress. So thank you. So the question I want to ask, when you're answering Mother's question, I'm kind of have some answers, but my hand is raising, so I still want to ask this question. I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
So Jaga and Magai, it is said that Krishna wanted to come to this material world to fight. So in their case, they wanted to help Krishna to facilitate that, or to help Krishna to do that. So
Are you thinking about Jagai and Madai or Jay and Vijay?
no,
Jai
Vijay.
Vijay.
Sorry,
Jai
Vijay.
Vijay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in their case, they want to be part of that. That is why they came. So they committed offense that brought them here to become Hiranyakashipu and.
It's not that they wanted to fight. No. It's just to clarify, they wanted to be away from him for as little time as possible. And so they knew that if they came as adversaries, they'd only have to take 3 births. If they came as devotees, they'd take 7 births. So they preferred to be away for 3 births, and then they took the extra birth as Jaga and Madai in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. But they opted, they wanted to come back to their original service as quickly as possible. That's why they opted for the adversarial demonic role.
Okay, yes, but I heard that Krishna wanted to come to this material world. Maybe if I heard wrong, to have this pastime. So
which one? Which pastime, Hamsadutta? Krishna wanted to come to the material world.
For Krishna to come for the wrestling, to fight.
No, but actually, Shakti, what he's trying to ask actually is that Krishna wanted to come to the material world to enact this pastime. And so, Hamsadutta Prabhu, I'm thinking that it wasn't that Jai Vijay wanted to partake in Krishna's Leela here, but rather it was Krishna who picked those devotees to enact the pastime with in this material world. So I don't know if that helps.
Yes, thank you. That's what I want to put it, but times yes. So so the offense that they committed when Krishna came here, Krishna did not. I want to understand that between them and Prahlad, I want to understand that because I heard that Krishna came to save them, but not Prahlad Maharaj. And,
no,
and
that's not true. No, that's not true.
I'm kind of confused about that. So, yes, that's what I wanted to clear because Krishna was already coming already. So, I heard that Krishna between Prahlad and Jagai Magai, Vijay, Krishna came to save them. So I'm kind of confused about that.
So
if you can help me to clear that.
This is we try and fit Krishna into our human box. In our human world, we try and find one reason why something happens. Okay? Yes. Or 2 reasons why something happens. Or that one person, because we have this mentality that whenever there's a good situation, only one person is benefited. The transcendental position is that there are many reasons for every scenario, many purposes, many causes, and many beneficiaries.
Yes.
So Krishna benefits, Prahlad Maharaj benefits, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha benefit, all the assembled Vaishnavas benefit. Krishna comes because he wants to. Krishna comes to protect Prahlad Maharaj. Krishna comes to protect Jai and Vijay. Krishna comes to please the devotees, annihilate the demons, and to reestablish religious principles. He comes for many reasons. He has many purposes. His actions lead to many results. His decision-making is complex and complete. And there are many beneficiaries, always. When it comes to Krishna, there are always beneficiaries, and everybody is a beneficiary. When we read CC, we hear that even those who were on the planet at the same time as Lord Chaitanya benefited. Even those ones who were oblivious to him, there was benefit. You know, Henry VIII was on the planet when Lord Chaitanya was here. He probably didn't have a clue who Lord Chaitanya was.
Yeah.
Right? And you know Henry VIII's history. So this is what I'm saying. This is when you switch on a lamp, the whole room is lit up. Even the corners of the room that don't have any cognizance of being lit up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the one, because this is what I wanted to clear. And thank you so much for the thank you for the wonderful answer. And the second question.
Prabhu, hold on, please, second, shortly. Thank you for the question, Brother Chiti Shakti, and thank you for the answer, because I'm happy Hamsaduta asked this question, because we had one devotee, I can't think of who it was, speak on this very platform. And he was the one who made this statement that actually Krishna came not to save Prahlad. Prahlad is already a pure devotee. He doesn't need any salvation. He doesn't need any protection.
That's not true. Prahlad becomes a pure devotee.
Okay, so explanation today to his question of how Krishna does one thing and serves multi-purposes makes a lot of sense, in the sense that this devotee was saying that Lord Krishna came just to enact his chivalry pastime. That was his main thing, for protection for Prahlad. That was not a problem. So, Hamsaduta Prabhu, thank you for the question, and Mother Chiti Shakti, thank you for the answer.
It's okay. Hamsaduta has one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, and Mother, my second question is that why is it that in our spiritual life, it's most of the time, I don't know if that the scripture said, because I'm a neophyte and I want to understand that. Even something little, even I'll put it this way, maybe the truth is clearly there, but no matter how you put it, or maybe you don't say it, or it's in your mind, it said that you are committing offense. I really don't understand it. If you can help me to understand that, something little or any explanation whatsoever, even if it's right, or even if you don't say it and you are thinking about it, it's offense. Can you help me to understand that, please?
So in Kali Yuga, we don't get reactions for negative things that we think, but in Kali Yuga, we do get a benefit for thinking positively. But we have to be careful what we think, because generally if we repeatedly think something, we start to talk about it and we start to act on it. So we want to be mindful about what's going on in the garden of our mind. Yeah. But we don't get reactions for what we think. And you know, when it comes to offenses, the Skanda Purana has got very clear things which are come under Vaishnava Aparad. Those actions are considered offensive. But then there are other actions which are just neutral actions, but somebody else may not like them. Like, for example, Jay and Vijay, they're guarding a gate. That's their job. It's their job to decide whether someone can see the Lord or not. They're just doing their job. There's nothing offensive by what they're doing, but people get upset, right? It's like any of our services. Prashadam's closed, it's finished. Someone might get upset at you if there's no prashad. You haven't done anything offensive by not having a constant 24-hour supply of prashad, but somebody's upset. How do you deal with an upset person? And actually, this whole pastime is also a masterclass on how to deal with an upset person. Jay and Vijay didn't fight. The Lord came to protect them. And Krishna was very kind. He, in fact, he didn't even say, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? They're just doing their job. Get out of here. He didn't say that. He said, these are my intimate servants. If they've upset you, it's as good as me upsetting you. And I'm willing to chop off my own arm for upsetting you. Can we have that kind of compassion? Do you see what I mean by when we accept Krishna as a person, we really get to understand, wow, what a wonderful person. This is the person that I want to be friends with. This is the person who I want to go to with everything. This is the person that I want to make sure that no matter what is going on in this life, success, failure, abandonment, being famous, doesn't matter. I always start my day, end my day, and throughout my day, I don't leave him.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
It's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Jayanti, you said you had one more question.
Yes, thank you. The last thing what you said is, I've heard that many times, that saying that fry your desires with the fire of devotional service. So can you elaborate on that? Because I mean, it is a nice saying, but actually, if we think deep, actually, what does it mean to fry your desires? We are full of desires with the fire of devotional service. Let's say we have so many desires, material desire, or at least I don't know. I cannot talk about everyone else.
Ah,
But
everything's incessant. We don't. Their mind is full of endless desires from past lives, from earlier in this life. So many things. But let's understand the science of desire, action, and consequence.
how do we fry them? That's
Yes.
my
It is devotional service. That's what I'm saying. Let's go back to the basics.
Yeah.
You have a desire, right?
Mhm.
Desire then leads to contemplation. Contemplation then leads to intent and planning and action and willing. Then you act, then you reap the rewards. But there is an important step before desire. Before every desire comes exposure. Unless you are exposed to something, you don't desire it. If you've never heard of chocolate cake, never been told about chocolate cake, never smelt it, never seen it, you won't desire it. Okay? So devotional service changes what we're exposed to, so we start to desire devotional things.
Okay.
Devotional service will eradicate existing desires. It will eradicate existing contemplation. It will eradicate planning, intent, everything. It can even, to a point, eradicate. Here we go. Here's my weird screen thing. It can even eradicate. It can even eradicate the consequences, depending on how blazing our fire of devotion is. Now, there's some prarabdha karma it can't immediately eradicate, but it eventually does as well. So, for example, this body is my prarabdha karma. I'm never going to be purple or yellow. Okay, I'm never going to be blonde, right? This is my prarabdha karma. It doesn't matter, even if I'm become a pure devotee, but when I become a complete, when my fire of bhakti is so strong and it's reached prem, I can't stay in this body anyway. So even the prarabdha karma goes. And it can go after my karmic time to leave, or it can go before my karmic time to leave. Because Vaishnava is even protected from death. Your astrology doesn't act in the same way, depending on balance, what are you governed by? The laws of bhakti or by the laws of karma? And that all just depends on how much you're frying your seeds of action. So frying the seeds of desire in the fire of devotional service means engage in devotional activities, in devotional association, in devotional thought, words, intent, attitude. When you do that, what you expose yourself to, what you smell, hear, taste, touch, everything, okay, what you look at. When you do that, the desires naturally change. What's there in your unconscious mind changes. What's pre-existing in your unconscious mind gets eradicated, right? Cheta, Darpana, Marjana, millions of lifetimes of dust is cleared. So both dust is cleared and anything that comes in is devotional. So this is the burning, this is the frying of the seeds.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes much more sense now.
Good. I'm very glad. I think there are no Hare Krishna.
No, Govinda Prabhu has his hand up.
Did he?
Govinda
Okay.
Prabhu, our Garuda. Govinda Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Yeah, thank you, Sadi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
And thank you, Mother. My respectful obeisances to
My
you. My
obeisances,
obeisances to
Prabhupada.
the devotees. Mother, can you kindly clarify or elaborate more about this point of offense? You know, you just mentioned that in Kali Yoga, we are blessed to go away with our mental offenses.
Yes.
Yes, I need more clarification on that because Jiva Goswami, when he was in that meditation, I see Radha and Krishna pastimes, and the hunchback was thinking that Jiva was laughing at him, but Jiva was actually laughing because of the pastimes he was viewing.
Yes.
And the hunchback thought that the Jiva was laughing at him. And So he was upset. And because of that mood and what he was thinking negatively towards Giva, that affected his meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we then say that our mental offenses is not counted in Kali Yoga?
That's a good question.
Can you elaborate more on that, please?
So there seems to be some dispute who is having this.
But actually, the point of accuracy. Was it Jiva Goswami who was having meditation?
This is what I'm saying.
Rupa Goswami?
I thought it was Rupa Goswami. Then sometimes people
Rupa
say to me, no,
Goswami?
it's Sanatana Goswami. But I'm pretty sure it's Rupa Goswami. That's what my understanding is. And
Yeah, I think
it's definitely not Jiva Goswami. It's either Rupa or Sanatana. But the point of the question, I guess, is, how could his meditation be broken if what's in the mind doesn't give a reaction in Kali Yuga? So first of all, one of the Goswamis, Rupa or Sanatana, he was at the stage where his meditation happens, not that it's meditation in the mind, right? And what he was thinking wasn't offensive. What he was in samadhi, he was in trance. A Vaishnava's heart, and when I'm talking about Vaishnava, I mean a true Vaishnava. We're looking at the caliber of Rupa and Sanatana. Paradukha dukhi. Even though they are always in the spiritual world, there is a part of them that's always connected here. They cannot tolerate another person's pain. So it's not even so much that his meditation broke because he'd committed an offense. He thought he'd committed an offense. But it's more likely that when this person who was walking past him got upset and thought he was laughing at him, he probably picked up on it. This person's upset because they're paradukha dukhi. And he took the blame on himself. It's like Ambarish Maharaj. When Durvasha Muni came back and fell at his feet and begged him, please, can you stop the Sudarshan Chakra? Please, I beg you. Ambarish Maharaj didn't go, about time, you realize who I am. He felt embarrassed. It describes he felt embarrassed that Durvasha Muni was falling at his feet. He didn't like it. His only thing was, my gosh, that whole year that Durvasha Muni was running around, Ambarish Maharaj didn't go, oh, I wonder what's going on. Let me go and have a good, bite to eat. I've been fasting for a whole year. He stood there. He fasted the whole time for one whole year, living on just one sip of water every single day, so that it was as if he maintained his fast, but also broke his fast, so it wouldn't dishonor the vow. So when Durvasha Muni came and paid his obeisances and begged him, he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He said, what are you doing? And he immediately went to Sudarshan Chakra, said, if I've ever done anything, if there's any devotion in me, if I've ever pleased anyone, please just stop. Please spare him his life. He was willing to give up everything he had to protect Durvasha Muni. Durvasha Muni, the person who'd actually been offensive to him. So Rupa or Sanatana Goswami's meditation was not meditation. It was samadhi, pure meditation. It was not done on a mental platform. And furthermore, with their own mind, they weren't even committing any offenses. This was a case of an example that, first of all, picking up that somebody's upset with this heart of compassion. And secondly, simultaneously feeling distressed that, I was with the Lord and, with the divine couple, and now I'm here again. It must be my fault. Perhaps it's because I upset this person. Let me please this Vaishnav because I'm a nobody, and then maybe Krishna and Radharani will come to me again. So it's very different to having negative thoughts and us not getting reactions. They're two different things. Because if we got a reaction, an offense reaction, every time we had a negative thought, my God, I don't think any of us would be sitting here, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you, Mother. You see, your explanation explains like was either Rupa or Jiva saw the pain in the hunchback, and that's why he stepped down from his meditation. But this one, it was the hunchback rather who was upset, and his obsession affect his meditation. I mean, that's where the point lies. It's like I'm thinking negative about a friend, and my thoughts, my negative thinking affect his activities.
Yeah, that's true, but that's a different paradigm. That's a different paradigm. You're talking about human thought here. Of course, our friends, even people we don't know, get affected by our thoughts. Because, have you noticed when we think a particular way, our eyes change? We don't even notice the smallest, we can detect this with other people. The smallest shift in the way they look at us, we can read whether they're looking at us favorably or unfavorably. Whether they've walked past you by ignoring you or they didn't notice you. You don't even have to look in their eyes. You can see it just from the movement of the corner of their eyes. Why? Because we read people, the gross body sits in the subtle body. We have a reading of people's subtle body, what's going on in their mind and intelligence, far more than we realize. Okay? So we're talking about different paradigms here. You can't compare Rupa or Sanatan being in samadhi with the human aspect of how us thinking negatively about someone impairs them anyway, right? So in one sense, even though we don't get a reaction for thinking negatively about someone, our negative thoughts about someone can hamper them. And the reason I say they can hamper them is because they don't always, because again, it's a balance of potencies. If the other person is so loving and so spiritually advanced, our measly negative thoughts aren't going to touch them. This is why we're often told if we want to protect ourselves, just approach everything with love. You approach everything with love. Material energy can't touch you because material energy is not based on love. If you're a very loving person, other people's envy will roll off you like water off a duck's back. Okay, it just won't. People are so scared in this world of envy, right? Oh, don't tell people about your projects and your desires. They might get envious. They might put evil eye on you. And then this will block it and this and that. Well, to the degree that we are envious ourselves, we will not just attract that envy, we will be affected by the envy. Envy is the opposite of love. When we are loving, why is a loving person thinking, you want what I have, take it. There's plenty more. Because my Lord and Master, he owns it all. And he can give me as much as he wants to. You can't get in the way if he wants me to do something. I love you. Have it. There's this beautiful prayer in Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's Beggar 2 book. It's all about a lot of those prayers around the guru-disciple relationship. And one of them, he's writing this prayer about how his disciples ask him for so many things. He says, today my disciple asked me for my fame. So I said, here, have it anyway. My disciple asked me for my riches. And I said, here, have it anyway. I mean, to the point where he talks about how he gives away his bhakti. So, yes, we understand these things, but if understanding these things is good, that we understand how the material world navigates, but we connect with and we operate in that field, but we draw our reserves and our strength from a higher place. And this is the power of the holy name. And this is the power of chanting the holy name with attention that is rooted in acceptance of Krishna as a person. Because Krishna is the name, Krishna is in the name, and there is Krishna as the name. But that's a whole other conversation. It is nearly 5 o'clock. We've been going for nearly 2 hours. I know Aditya Prabhu has been putting his hand up intermittently. I don't know if he wanted to say anything, ask anything else. But Aditya Prabhu, I'll hand over to you to decide. I will have to go in 7 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much. There are a couple of sweet stuff in the chat room I would like to read. One is from Narottam Nitai. I checked, he left, but he said something beautiful with us. Just today, I was thinking of how to ask Krishna questions. And I was having thoughts in my mind. Please, Krishna, inform me how I can ask for things in my life that will allow me to be of service to you, as well as what I need to make my life easy so I can be dedicated. This is like a very humble supplication by a great soul. Of course, his name is Narutan. So very deserving. And then Romney Bajwa, who also sought permission to leave. He left already, but Romney Bajwa was saying, Chidi Shakti Mataji, this is the first time I've heard you give a talk. I was going to ask Romney Bajwa, where has he been all this while? But he's gone. Says, you are amazing. Thank you for sharing vital thoughts of Bhakti Yoga. I have to leave, unfortunately. So we thank these great devotees. And there was one very salient remark you made. Actually, as Bhakti yogis, we do not meditate. We let meditation come to us. And I said, that is quite a profound phenomenon. I personally never thought of it that way, but it's a very nice learning experience. So all in all, we thank you all so much, Mother Chiti Shakti.
My pleasure.
I must say, there is something very personal that almost nobody knows except me. But our revered speaker for today, Chiti Shakti, sent me a text message before the class that she was running late. She was working and she was running late, so she will be late for a couple minutes. And I gave her a thumbs up. And I was thinking to myself, what sort of service is this? Even though we may not be in the ashram as ashram devotees, we're working in the so-called corporate world, that even at work, even in our whatever dealings, we're still thinking of Krishna. What an opportunity Srila Prabhupada has created for us, that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you are always in touch with Krishna if we choose to. So I felt that was very exemplary and very encouraging. So thank you so much, Mother Chiti Shakti.
Thank you.
For not having time for anything other than Krishna and his devotees. Thank you so much. And dear devotees,
thank you, Mother. Next time, when you come next time, I'll ask you, does our thinking also to other devotees negatively affect us or affect them? But when you come next time, you can answer this question.
Beautiful.
I was driving my question to this point, actually.
I want to actually answer it now, if that's okay, because I feel like there's some things that it's better you pick it up when it's being talked about.
Okay.
You know, Guru Maharaj, again, back to Tirtha Maharaj, he talks about this. There's this, we were watching a class of his on the Vyasa Puja, and he talks about this idea of, you know, these farmers, and there's this farmer who has these really beautiful seeds and crops, and they're wonderful, and some of his seeds fly across, and these brilliant crops start to scatter in other farmers' fields. And people start saying to him, what are you doing? You should collect up the seeds. Otherwise, if their crops are very good as well, then, you know, there'll be competition. And he says, no. He says, it's good that my seeds go there and improves their crops. Because if the wind changes and when the winds change, their seeds will come into my crops. If their seeds are horrible, my crops will be ruined. So this whole idea of this human wireless connection, yes, of course, we have a divine connection, but we also have a human wireless connection. And when we send loving thoughts, other people benefit and we benefit. When we send negative thoughts, we may harm the other person, but we will definitely harm ourselves. Because when we think negative thoughts, our body has everything. Remember, everything starts in the subtle. Our mentality is the source of our material reality. Our human reality is created by our mentality. So if our mentality is negative, it manifests in the body, it manifests in our surroundings, it manifests in our neurochemistry, it manifests in our physiological hormones and you know, stress hormones, etc. That's what negative thinking does. You want to be healthy, think positively. So Negative thoughts may or may not harm other people, but they will definitely harm us. Positive thoughts will help other people and also help us, always.
Wonderful.
Haribo.
Wow.
Haribo.
Wow. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Well, Govinda Prabhu, thank you for somehow making this question answered. It's so beneficial to all of us.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace CITI Shakti, for sharing her love and wisdom with us all as she usually does. Jai, please, you may all unmute. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Vasudevya Eva Cha Patitam Pavanebhyo, Namo Namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Grace CITI Shakti Devi ki. Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
All Brahma Vaishnavi devotees ki jai.
Jai.
All Baris Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai, 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 Jai.
Hare Krishna.